This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I think it's maybe important to start by just underlining why we're here. It's because so much of the public is concerned. We are deeply concerned in the official opposition that the Trudeau Foundation has a governance problem that led to it being targeted as a means to influence the Trudeau government. It's a matter of public record that the Minister of Industry, as well as the Trudeau family, have the ability to appoint members to the foundation, that this foundation is defined as a public institution in various statutes, and that there was a spike in foreign donations after the Trudeau government took office, and it stretches credibility to think that that was sort of an accident unrelated to the fact that the foundation shares a name with the person who's prime minister, or that the prime minister continues to be listed as a member in the foundation's annual report, though identified as an inactive one. But I particularly want to drill down on this issue of the meeting in the Prime Minister's office. Mr. Rosenburg, you've told us there's nothing unusual about this meeting. Hey, meetings happen in the Prime Minister's office all the time. No big deal. I'll let you respond. But the Prime Minister's office is actually the name of the building. It's called the Prime Minister's office, and that a meeting took place with the Trudeau Foundation. You said PCO also has offices. Look, and it's a central downtown location. So I know the building fairly well. The Prime Minister's office is a 4-story building and includes the Prime Minister's private office as well as other buildings. The political arm of PMO uses the vast majority of that building. There are some offices from PCO, but the building is adjoining the 10-story Blackburn building, which is, from what I understand, all PCO offices. Even if the meeting had to happen somewhere between Spark Street and Wellington, you've got 10 floors with presumably boardrooms on all of them in the Blackburn building, and you've got one floor that's used by PCO in the Prime Minister's office. And to say that, well, all the boardrooms were taken in the Blackburn building. There was no space anywhere else in downtown Ottawa. The only place available was PMO. I mean, that's just malarkey, isn't it? I mean, that's you must have known that this meeting sent a message, and you must have intended it to send a message, sir. But tell me why none of the boardrooms in Blackburn building or anywhere else in downtown Ottawa were available, and you just felt this was the most convenient place to meet.
Well, there are a few things I want to say in response to your question. First of all, I believe that while this building is now called, I'm not sure exactly whether it's the Prime Minister's office. The
Prime Minister's office is what it's called.
I think, and the Privy Council office.
It was previously called Langevin Block, right, named after Mr. Langevin,
yes,
and the
when
name
was that changed?
But it was always the Prime Minister's office.
Mr. Genuich, you're kind of.
Go for
it. Why don't we hear from Mr. Rosenburg?
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually think at that time was before there was an issue around the name of the building. I think it had something to do with the legacy of Hector Langevin, maybe in relation to residential schools, I'm not sure. So a decision was made to change the name of the building. I think it may have still been the Langevin Block when I was there. 1. 2, I worked in PCO. They actually used 2 floors. The 3rd floor, where you've got the office of the clerk, the Deputy Secretary Plans, the Deputy Secretary Operations, the National Security Advisor is actually somewhere else, and that whole floor is filled with PCO folks. The 4th floor has 2 very big boardrooms and a number of smaller boardrooms that are constantly in use by members of the public service. 3rd, the genesis of this is I spoke to a deputy secretary of, I believe, of plans, and I think he would have said, I can't organize a meeting in the PCO. He said, well, I would have said, this is something you guys might want to know about. And he would have said, okay, I'll organize a meeting. Where do deputy secretaries of plans organize meetings? They do it in PCO, and they tend to do it in boardrooms on the 4th floor of the Langevin Block.
I'm going to jump in. I got 30 seconds left. Those boardrooms are used extensively by the Prime Minister's own staff, and they have priority for booking those rooms.
Well, that may be true today.
That has always been the case. You have 10 floors in Blackburn, but moreover, you have all sorts of other buildings. Clearly, the public service is not unaware of the fact that when meetings take place in the Prime Minister's office, that sends a message. And if you want to send the message that this foundation is closely connected to the Prime Minister, and therefore donations to this foundation are appreciated by the Prime Minister, a great way to send that message is to have it in the relatively small building
Thank you,
that is used
Mr.
and that is called
Genuis.
the Prime Minister's office.
Thank you, Mr. Genuis.
Thank you, Chair. What's striking to me is that someone who's had such senior roles in the public service would think the public in this committee are such utter fools as to believe that, there was an interesting discussion about pluralism and economic growth. It was sort of an academic, open-ended, thought-provoking discussion, and it just happened to involve 6 deputy ministers and take place in the Prime Minister's office. There's a lot of think tanks in this country that are doing great and probably more sophisticated work on these issues than the Trudeau Foundation that aren't able to get 6 deputy ministers together in the Prime Minister's office. The fact that nobody thought that was sending a message about anything to anyone is so bizarre that I'm surprised we're hearing that as testimony. I do want to move back to the issue of the very serious issue of sexual assault and harassment allegations against people connected with the foundation. My colleague, Mr. Brock, was raising these issues before a Liberal MP tried to shut it down on a point of order, and it is striking that Liberals don't want to hear these questions. They talk a lot about feminism and holding people accountable, but they didn't even want to let Mr. Brock finish his line of questioning on this. So I want to pick this up. Mr. Rosenburg, in the case involving Sherry Smiley, did you testify in February in support of the Trudeau Foundation's desire to move that case to Montreal?
I testified in February, not in support. I was asked to testify by their lawyers, but my testimony was...
By which lawyers?
By the Foundation's lawyers.
The Foundation's lawyers, okay.
But my testimony, if I recall it, was simply around factual issues as to where... for example, I would have signed the scholarship agreement for Ms. Smiley, where Ms. Smiley went to school, where the events took place, which was in Newfoundland. I just gave factual testimony. I wasn't advocating for anybody.
Naturally, as a witness, you wouldn't have. Your role wasn't to advocate. But is it reasonable to presume that if the Foundation's lawyers asked you to testify, they thought the testimony you provide would be useful to their desire to move the location of the case to Quebec?
I assume that's why they wanted me to. I'm not sure they would have found my testimony necessarily all that helpful.
Right. And do you think the way Ms. Smiley has been treated by the Foundation has been appropriate?
Can't say.
Well,
I don't know because I wasn't there. Most of this, as I understand it, statement of claim deals with issues post the time that I left the Foundation.
Okay, but they've repeatedly sought a change of venue. So I'm just on the face of that. I mean, I can't speak to the particular facts of her claim, but the repeated efforts to move the venue to a place where these events didn't occur and that is least convenient for her. Would you suggest that that's not a great way of kind of affirming the importance of survivors coming forward and telling their stories? Mr.
Genuis, and maybe through the chair, I am not going to opine on people's strategy in handling litigation.
My next question is about sort of a structural issue for the Foundation around legal issues like this. Who pays for the litigation that occurs? And where does the money come from specifically for that litigation that the Foundation uses? From
administrative budgets of the Foundation.
Okay, is that donor money? Is that money interest on the endowment?
I don't think it's donor money, but I'm not sure. Frankly, you could ask the Foundation what the accounting is on that.
Okay, I want to switch quickly to Mr. Nubley in the time I have. The Minister of Industry is responsible for appointing directors to the Trudeau Foundation. Could you share a bit about the process that you follow when you're DM at Industry regarding appointments to the Trudeau Foundation?
Several comments here. First, I believe there were changes, and I was briefed on this in 2013 in terms of the role of the minister in terms of appointments. And in 2013, under the Harper government, the foundation actually changed the appointment process so that in recognition that ministers would not appoint directors, the change as I understood it, although perhaps Mr.
Sorry,
Rosenberg could help.
I am almost out of time, and I may have misspoke. It's
So-
members to the foundation. The minister, according to the latest annual report, retains the power to appoint members to the foundation. Are you aware of that? And can you tell us about the process by which the minister makes these decisions?
So that is the case. It is members, and I never participated in any appointment because, as I understood it, and I believe I'm correct on this, although I'm working again on my memory, that no appointments were ever made by Ministers Parody, Moore, or Baines.
Thank you very much,